Welcome back to the 0 to KSM challenge, and this week, well, this week was an interesting one. There were some things that happened, there were a lot of deaths, and although there are a lot of things I can do better and improve on, the groups this week just didn't make it easy for me, man. We had some slow tanks, we had some fast tanks, we had a very questionable tank, and then we had some weird route that, honestly, I've never done before, and I don't like it. And well, you guys know my #1 rule. If a route isn't planned at the beginning of a dungeon, you follow the tank regardless. It doesn't matter if you disagree with the route. So yeah, this week was fun. But before we jump into any of today's shenanigans, I just wanted to remind you guys that if you did want to watch me live or perhaps join me for some Keystones, I stream over on Twitch a few days a week. A link to that and all of my other socials can be found below. So last week we had a very good week indeed. And we start this reset with an item level of 414 and a Mythic Plus rating of 1646. And I'm going to do things a little differently this week because the gear's starting to get into a place where I don't need to bother with the heroic weekly quest. So we're not going to be doing any of those today. However, we do have the new time walking weekly where we jump into Mist of Pandaria. By doing this, we can get our hands on a juicy cache from the new raid. However, unfortunately, this time round, it's only normal. So the item we can get from this is at least 415, and we're kind of hoping for a trinket because one of our trinkets is really bad. It's the one item that's letting us down the most, but we do of course have the vault to open after. And that kind of leads me on to today's plans. I've gotten to the point now where I feel like I'm gonna struggle if I push a little further. And by all means, it's very doable and I could probably achieve KSM with the gear I have now, but I would like to continue playing this character after the challenge is finished. And if I take myself out of the KSM challenge mindset and treat this character as a potential main or an ult, it would probably be very beneficial to me if I spent the week farming Wyrm crests. I have a bunch of gear that could do with upgrading, and I think that's going to be this week's plans. I'm going to specifically target some dungeons, not only for a little bit of rating, but more so for the gear. So I will be looking at farming places like Alderman this week. It has quite a lot for me, but the one item I want the most is the staff. And then there is Vortex Pinnacle that I really don't enjoy so much. So maybe I go there a couple of times, maybe just the once, I'm not sure yet. Yeah, pretty sure I'm going to finish this challenge without the Rain Song trinket, but that's fine. Maybe there's another trinket we can get our hands on. So as mentioned, we begin the day by doing the time walk-ins weekly. And oh my god, I go on about it every time, but time walk-ins are so wonky. The scaling is just completely messed up. They legit feel like sometimes harder than a Mythic Plus. But not only is it the scaling, I'm just not used to healing in these places, so I don't really know when the damage is coming. But yeah, time walk-ins isn't really something I need to worry about. Though I guess we could take time walk-ins as an opportunity to see potential future M+ dungeons. I give them credit, Season 2 dungeons, they're okay. I'm kind of dreading Season 3. Yeah, Mythic Plus in its current state with the rotation of dungeons and bringing old content back, massive fan. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about the dungeon rotation and bringing old places back and making it relevant. With the time walk-ins complete, it's time to head over to the vault and see what loot we get this week. And although we have already mentioned the staff from Alderman and the Rain Sun trinket from Vortex Pinnacle, the one thing we really want from today's vault would obviously be tier. And speaking about tier, this week we have the introductory of the Catalyst. It is back for Season 2. So even if we don't get tier from the vault today, we could still technically go and transfer one of my current pieces and get our 2 set. But we'll talk more about that after the vault. So we open our time walking cache and we are presented with a pair of 421 wrists. By equipping these, we are dropping a bit of haste, but it is a pretty decent item level upgrade, so we'll be using these. And then it's time for the vault. And I was super nervous opening this one because I really wanted tier. I really wanted to get my 2 set. I was kind of excited when I saw the shoulders, but sadly they weren't tier. However, because they are a hero piece, we could of course turn these into tier. Along with this, we are presented with a one-handed mace. I do need a weapon upgrade, though sadly I don't even have an offhand, so this would be pretty useless for me at the minute. Plus I'm farming Alderman for the staff and this one has no haste, so I'd honestly just end up replacing this one, so it seemed like a waste. And then we have the Fragment Trinket, which presents a lot of mastery. I don't think this would have been a terrible trinket for me to take. It would be a massive upgrade to the second blue trinket I have, but it would be my second on-use trinket. It doesn't have main stat, and once I get the Rain Song, it would honestly just go to waste. So I kind of felt like Shoulders was the best option for me to take. So that's what I decided to do. Because of the jump in item level, I decided to equip the Shoulders straight away and drop my 2 set from Season 1. I mean, it was like a 30 item level upgrade, so it seemed like a no-brainer to me. I then also replaced my old tier gloves with some new gloves that I could also potentially upgrade. And with the new items equipped and a few things upgraded, it takes our total item level up to 416. So in terms of the catalyst, I could go and get my 2 set right now. However, if I convert a piece now and I go and get something from the vault next week, which would replace it, it would be a massive waste. So it's a bit of a gamble as it stands. If next week in the vault I get tier, then I will also have 2 charges of the catalyst to go and get my 4 set. Along with this, if I actually achieved KSM, I could use the token you receive from that to also get a piece of tier. So for now, I decided to hold off. And then it was time. I was finally ready after everything we've done so far to jump into some Mythic Plus. And that brings me on to this week's affixes. So this week is a fortified week, which means some trash packs are going to be absolutely horrible. Yeah, don't worry, you'll see some of those. And then at +7 we have Storming, and at +14 we have Bursting, which I'm kind of worried about, to be honest. And let's just hope we don't have a repeat of last week where we had Sanguine all over the place. But I would just like to mention now to those that are wondering, although I have planned to farm Wyrm Crests, I would like to experience Bursting at least once, so if it's not like last week and we don't get it at 13 or lower, then I guess we're going to have to jump into a 14. The key we get from the vault this week is a Halls of Infusion 13. However, because I am after quite a bit of gear from other places, I decide to look for an Alderman. And well, I've spoken about it quite a bit, and this week is going to be no different. I'm going to take full advantage to those geared players that are farming Wyrm Crests. So hopefully this week we can get into some 11s, 12s and maybe some 13s and completely smash through it. So we start the Alderman run and straight away I decide to use Cocoon on the tank for the first couple of ad packs. Because my experience so far in this place with these 2 packs, even on a tyrannical week, yeah, I don't know, man. Some tanks handle it really well. Others don't bother using their mitigation properly or any of their defensives, and they either yo-yo or go splat. So I decide to mitigate this from the get-go. The first boss goes as expected. Incredibly horrible. I have no idea where to stand yet again. I hate this boss, honestly. Like, positioning is the worst. Of course I get flustered. There's a lot of things I can do better. However, we do finish the boss, we take him down, and no one's died so far, so that's a plus. Although I'm already noticing that I'm struggling with my mana, and that's going to be the theme of today. I really struggle today with my mana. I'm not sure if that's meant to be a thing. Maybe I'm misplaying and using stuff that I'm not meant to. Maybe too much overhealing in some case. I really don't know. But today was hard. So after the first boss, I try and catch up with the tank. I have less than 10% mana, and they show no signs of slowing down. Oh no, it's going to be one of those. Do you ever get that feeling that some tanks don't even bother tracking the healer's mana? They just think it's infinite. And then out of nowhere, after a couple of bosses, they look at you and they're like, healer, drink. I mean, give me a chance, man. Yeah, I've had quite a few of those. So, trying to get some mana back, the tank refuses to stop. In some moments like this, you get a little bit tilted. And then misplays like this start happening, you know, standing in stuff that you shouldn't be. Little disclaimer, while playing, I honestly struggle to see some things on the floor. Sometimes stuff like Sanguine inside water isn't great. Looking back at the footage, it's somewhat visible, but it's still a little difficult for me. So yeah, I end up dying, and on my way back, to my surprise, or not surprise I guess, the tank pulls the boss. I'm not even there. Thankfully, I get back to the group, we take down the boss with no further deaths, and suddenly I realise, wait, I'm the first and only death again? Man, I suck. And is the tank gonna let me drink? No, okay, never mind. We get to the third boss with 2 further casualties, and I'm able to drink this time. This boss goes absolutely fine, but it's this trash pack after, or multiple trash packs, that I just wanted to cover. So I think for a lot of groups, especially when you're overgeared and you're farming this sort of thing, you kind of have the same idea in mind. But not everyone is on the same page. So here's what happens. The tank obviously wants to run ahead, pull multiple groups and corner pull. By corner pulling, because nothing is in range of the tank, they have to physically go round the corner to actually get to the tank. This is a very common tank thing. But because we have DPS lacking behind that aren't on the same page, they start dealing damage to some of the mobs, taking aggro, and because of that they're taking heavy cleave damage. I get pretty flustered and at this point I'm kind of in two minds. But yeah, I made a massive mistake here by standing in front of the mobs, which you obviously shouldn't do. I think this is where my tank brain sort of kicked in and I'm like, oh, I should corner pull too. When in fact I should have stood behind all of the mobs. I should have threw down my failing stomp and then started healing the rest of the group, obviously taking care of the DPS that were lacking behind. But I obviously didn't want everyone else to die on the way there, so I wasn't sure if I should run back because I was currently round the corner at this point, so my heals wouldn't reach them anyway. After this, the fourth boss goes down absolutely fine, and once again we're here to talk about another trash pack. Welcome to Fortified Week, boys and girls. Can you guess which mob we're going to talk about? Yep, that's right, the golems. So these guys have an ability called Thundering Clap. And oh boy, this does a lot of damage. With a bit of gear, you can kind of brute force it at this level to be fair, but still, at higher keys, trust me, you want to do this correctly. I mean, positioning for me is kind of out of my hands. It depends entirely where the tank is tanking the mobs. Ideally, I think they need to be tanked at the top of the stairs next to the wall, so that everyone else can quickly line of sight when they need to. The Shaman does use Bloodlust for this pull, and to be fair, I don't blame them. I'm pretty glad they did. And apart from this, the rest of the run goes really well. We end up taking down the last boss, free chest in this run, and it takes our total rating up to 1,661. Oh, but it gets better, because on our first Mythic Plus run of the day, would you look at that, we finally get to replace our last bit of blue gear. It's not quite a rain song, but it's definitely an upgrade. What seemed like a very stressful dungeon at times, maybe it was worth it in the end. With the new trinket equipped, it takes our total item level up to 418. After a massive trinket upgrade, I decide to try my luck with a Vortex Pinnacle 11. I thought this might have been a horrible run, but to be honest, it actually goes pretty well. Once again, taking full advantage to those that are farming the Wyrm crests, so everyone is really geared, and I don't expect a lot to go wrong. So we get to the first boss and Cyclone Shield is about to happen. And you know we're meant to move out of the shields? Well, the hunter just kind of runs with it. And I hope none of the hunters in my groups actually watch my videos. I must thank them really, because they do make me laugh when I watch my footage back. Oh boy, please don't make me play BM Hunter for Season 3. Honestly, not much to cover for the rest of the run. There's only one further death, unfortunately the Hunter. Yeah, sadly they realised that they need to be inside the triangle just that little bit late. Last boss is absolutely perfect, no one fails the static cling, everyone's inside the triangle, the ads are dealt with, and we end up free chesting this run, bringing our total rating up to 1,691. Along with this, I loot a cloak from the chest. The stats aren't amazing, but nonetheless, it's an item level upgrade. And then we move on to Nelfaris 13. Now, there's not too much to discuss for this run. I just wanted to talk about what happened at the beginning, because it kind of threw me. So there's no particular order for the bosses apart from the last one. This basically means you can go left or right. Up until now, I have never ever gone right, and I've done this place many times. So the fact that after we killed the first two mobs, the tank went right first, man, this was just weird. But yeah, the rest of the run goes absolutely fine. We end up 2 chests in the run, which brings our total rating up to 1,726. But sadly, third time unlucky, I guess, because we get no loot for this run, but it's fine. From here, we move on to a Freehold 13. Now, I'm not going to show it all, but there were quite a lot of deaths all over the dungeon. Of course, I was the first near the beginning because I got flustered with all the damage. But this run was a little frustrating due to the lack of CC. Along with this, there's a lot of damage that could have been avoided, and I also feel like the rest of the group could have been a lot better when it comes to off healing. I mean, if the group's going to stand in loads of stuff and make my job harder, then surely they can help out, right? I know, wishful thinking. Oh, the last boss, by the way, where the priest is currently standing, yeah, you don't want to stand there, because when the ad spawns, it's going to target you and you're going to go kaboom. I try saving them with Ring of Peace, but there's very little I can do. So we only end up 1 chest in this run. It brings our total rating up to 1,728, and just like the last place, we get no loot. The next place that we go to is a Halls of Infusion 13. I sign up to this key completely forgetting that I have my own. Yeah, maybe we come back here. So the trash leading up to the first boss can be pretty brutal. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be interrupted, like the X-Pulse from the apparatus, and honestly, This is so horrible to heal. There's so much damage. I'm not going to sit here and cover the entire run. I just wanted to cover a few things that perhaps the group could have done a lot better, or maybe a couple of things that annoyed me. We get to the first boss and already we have 4 deaths. Could have been a lot worse, to be fair. And there are 2 things that the tank did that I got irked, okay? Let's go with that. I got irked. So there was the tank frontal. The boss starts casting Titanic Fist. All you have to do as a tank is simply sidestep the ability. Yeah, that didn't happen. Not once did I see the tank move. And I'm not going to bother showing the entire fight to show you exactly what I meant, but maybe this helps. Even though the tank doesn't like to move out of abilities, they're kind of forced to on the 3rd boss because Glacial Surge does a lot of damage. And of course they felt the full effect. We proceed to the end of Bridge Boss 2.0 and it seems they still haven't learnt their lesson. Because there's an ability called Flash Flood that you just simply have to avoid. This does a huge amount of damage and also knocks you back. So the tank of course gets knocked off, the shaman then takes aggro and ends up dying. But hold on, whoa. Did the hunter just disengage off the edge? I mean, one of my runs, Halls of Infusion, I have a hunter. It was bound to happen, right? So, eventually, with roughly 4 minutes remaining, we make our way to the last boss, though sadly, we seem to be missing the hunter. So those that don't know, there is actually a skip to get back to the last boss that I guess the hunter didn't know about. So I thought I'd just mention it now. The skip only becomes active if you clear the right side of the ring leading up to the first boss. Of course, if you don't do this and you clear the left side, then yeah, you're taking the long way around. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the tank wants to hang around and proceeds to pull the boss. We're progressing on the last boss and I feel incredibly bad for the hunter. They finally get back to the boss and we begin the gauntlet. Like, they've literally just got back to the group and already they're back at the beginning of the bridge. And as I make my way back to the boss, it looks like sadly, once again, we're gonna have to do this without the hunter. Man, this poor guy can't catch a break. What frustrated me the most about this fight is that we're sitting on 2 combat reses and none of the paladins bothered to pick up the hunter. And well, that could have been the difference between timing and not timing this run, because unfortunately we go into the second gauntlet phase and the boss is at 5% with 50 seconds remaining. We make it through the gauntlet, the hunter gets picked up and we take down the boss, though sadly we overtime this key by 4 seconds. However, this does take our rating up to 1,749. And do you remember the trinket I didn't take from the vault? Well, I guess it's a good job I didn't, because I end up looting that from the chest. From here, I decide once again to sign up to an Alderman 13. Honestly, not a lot to cover in this run. It goes pretty smoothly and we've already been here today, so we end up taking down the last boss, 2 chests in this run, and it takes our total rating up to 1,751. Sadly, I don't get any loot from this place. But then I notice the mage loots the staff that I've been hoping for all this time. I thank them all for the run and then I eagerly ask, do you need the staff? Knowing full well that they already have this staff at 437, and thankfully it does indeed get traded to me. Holy moly, we finally did it. We finally not only got an upgraded weapon that I can use, but it is my best weapon for Mythic Plus. Yo, you. Yeah, you. Did you know that leaving a like on this video increases your chances of getting the best loot from your weekly vault? Alright, so maybe it doesn't. Fine, I get it. I know when I'm not wanted. Back to the video. So this week has been very kind to us in terms of upgrades. The 2 items that we wanted to upgrade the most being the trinket, although it's not the rain song, and of course the weapon, which does a lot. And we get both in the same week. Absolutely amazing. I was super happy with this, and in a way to celebrate, I decided to go and upgrade some of my gear. Though, as it turns out, I didn't have as many crests as I was hoping for, so all I did was upgrade the weapon. But don't worry, because I maxed it out. That's right, we now have our BIS weapon at 437 item level. Oh boy. However, I wasn't done there and I wanted to go one step further. So I decided to go ahead and put a crafting order in for the Underlating Spore Cloak. And if you think my luck couldn't get any better, the cloak I did receive was in fact item level 433. So I guess the crafter actually had an inspiration proc. Is that what it is? I don't really know crafting, so it did cost me nearly 20k to craft, not including the tips. So I don't really have a lot of gold left, but yeah, worth it in my eyes. With the upgraded staff and the new cloak equipped, it brings our total item level up to 422. And then it was time for some more Mythic Plus, and we needed at least 2 more dungeons to fill the vault. And this run, well, it was a bit of a cheeky one, and I'm incredibly thankful that I upgraded and did what I did before I jumped into this one, because this was, well, here's what happened. So I join an under rot 13. We start filling up the group and I make my way. Everyone so far, apart from me, is decently geared around the 430 mark. And then with 4 party members, the group gets delisted and I see this message.
Lego. Tank is coming soon.
So I thought, okay, cool. They've got a friend to come. No problem, right? A Guardian Druid gets invited to the group and I quickly inspect them to see what I've got to work with. And to my horror, I saw this. 300 item level in a plus 13. I honestly have no idea what they were doing. They were obviously switching around a bit of gear, so I hesitate to enter the dungeon just yet and I inspect their gear for a 3rd time, hoping that it was just a bug. And I honestly don't know what was going on with the first couple of inspects, but the 3rd one, well, I mean, at least they had over 400 item level now, but like 403 and a plus 13. This was gonna be a bumpy ride. So we start this run. I'm obviously incredibly anxious. I do make some mistakes for the first pack. Yet again, another tank that likes to take the ticks at the beginning. Yeah, these hurt, man. I don't like it. And of course, I stand in the maggot spray. I tried out ranging it. It turns out it goes a little further than I thought. There were a couple of scary moments in the first few packs where the druid's health just yo-yoed out of control. Though to be fair, they handled it really well and they did so much healing. I think the most challenging part for me is where the tank had to kite the adds and therefore I had to be on the move. So my healing wasn't great at times. The first boss goes down absolutely fine, and as we're clearing the adds around the second boss, things once again get a little bit spicy. So in one of the previous episodes I mentioned struggling with the maggot spray. I just simply couldn't out-heal the ability, and because of that we obviously lost a couple of DPS, and the same thing happened in this run. Now when I was showcasing this in one of the previous episodes, I did indeed have my Ring of Peace off cooldown at that time. And this was pointed out to me by one of you guys. I think what was mentioned is the fact that I said I couldn't deal with the ability, when in fact I meant I couldn't out-heal it. Of course I can use Ring of Peace or Leg Sweep to stun them, and that's fine, you guys are absolutely right. But do I really expect my DPS to stand in it? Come on, man. So the one thing I'm going to take from this, and hopefully everyone else can, when you guys get to this part in Underrot, it's probably a good idea to save your CCs and stuns. Especially in a pug environment, because at the end of the day we're all human, we all make mistakes. I've stood in these frontals too. But going forward, I am going to use all my CC and my stuns, and hopefully next time I can save someone's life. Oh, and on that note, I typically show in these videos anyway, the stuff that I'm doing poorly. I don't want it to be about all of the positives and all of the good times, because perhaps if I'm making a lot of mistakes and I'm able to point them out, there's a good chance that some of you guys are making the same mistakes and you can learn from it. Or maybe there's just no good clips of Dilly to show you, because I mean, I am bad. Anyway, we smash through this dungeon and we end up 3 chests in this run, with 0 seconds remaining by the way. This takes our total rating up to 1,766. We do pick up a waste from the chest. Thankfully, it's no good to me and I can trade it to the tank, because they clearly need it more than I do, right? Hats off to the tank, by the way. They absolutely smashed it. Considering the item level, I was actually really impressed. I'm pretty sure that this 400 item level druid has done a much better job than some of the prop paladins I've had at 430 item level. So yeah, item level isn't everything. With 7 dungeons down and 1 remaining to fill the vault, I still hadn't experienced bursting. So I decided to sign up to a freehold 14. Now, I didn't really know what to expect from this run. I just knew it was going to be a step up from what I was currently doing. Although the group were on the higher side in terms of item level, they were all above 435. This wasn't going to be easy. And the first pack kind of proved that, because I got a little bit confused. I didn't know where the tank was standing. I didn't know where the frontal was going to appear. I start backpedaling, but sadly, I'm clearly standing in it. Yep, I'm the first to die. Again. Now, you would think with bursting going off, they would calm down on the DPS, but no, of course, if there's damage to be dealt, yeah, they basically just carry on killing themselves. We get to the first boss with 5 deaths, and already I am struggling to deal with bursted. It's a little difficult to deal with once they've just killed off like 4 or 5 and I don't really have any targets to fist weave. Of course I have a few abilities that can deal with this, but yeah, it's easier said than done. The bosses, as you would probably imagine, go absolutely fine, though we start ramping up the deaths as soon as we get to the other side of the bridge. And as you can see by this obnoxious add-on that likes to spam party chat, everyone's standing in stuff that they really shouldn't be, including me by the way. Pair this with bursting and oh boy. So eventually we scrape through this dungeon and we get to the last ad pack before the last boss, currently sitting at 22 deaths. And it's worth pointing out that interrupts and stuns up to this point have been pretty non-existent. So I guess you guys know what's going to happen here. And yes, once again, even myself completely at fault here, because not only do I have my interrupt, I have Ring of Peace, I also have my leg sweep to stun all the mobs. I did use my leg sweep, but the fact that I've still got the other 2 available is personally unacceptable for me, and I need to do a lot better. Thankfully, we are able to push on and time this run, bringing our total rating up to 1,779. No loot from this run, but I was just glad to see the end of it. From here, as much as I wanted to carry on and do a little bit more, unfortunately, I just ran out of time. But damn, in terms of gear this week, it's been a very good week, and I kind of wanted to round it off by upgrading a few things, because I noticed that I am sitting on quite a few Drake crests, and I'm now pushing at a level that I'm just not going to need them anymore. So I thought if I had gear that actually required Drake crests to upgrade, I might as well just use them. So that is exactly what I did, and I upgraded my legs, feet, helm, one of my rings, the new Talon trinket, and my wrists. And this brings me up to a total item level of 425. Actually my highest geared ult at this point. So my thoughts for this week, and in terms of healing, I think I'm heading in the right direction. I'm on the right path. I just need to carry on doing what I'm doing. I still struggle at times when there's massive AoE damage, and I don't know if I need to trust my offensive abilities. I need to get better at stuff like that. And then I think I need to improve on CC for trash packs, because the monk has a lot going for them, and I need to be better at interrupts because I've been really poor on that. There are definitely some trash packs that leg sweep is very good for, but yeah, judging on next week, it's very possible that we could be getting KSM, but we still have some fortified keys that could definitely do with an upgrade. And of course, next week we will have 2 charges of the catalyst, so we will have 4 set, and currently I don't even have 2 set, so that should be a massive boost in healing. But yeah, that's where I'm going to leave you guys today. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, a like would be much appreciated, but that's me done. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.